Please welcome to the stage William Murdoch, Executive Director of MORPC.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. How's your Summit on Sustainability going? I'm William Murdoch, the Executive Director at the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission. Our friends just call us MORPC, and I am so excited for us to be here today. It's the one day of the year that we really all come together and get motivated by each other about the work that's happening around the region and nationally too. I hope you've enjoyed those sessions. It sounds like you did. I'm so inspired by what's happening, by all of the work that we're uplifting today. So thanks for providing that inspiration and making an impact. But there's more to come, and so we've got really exciting sessions this afternoon. At lunch here, we've got Dr. Okuma from CareSource, who's going to share with us about how to foster inclusiveness in Central Ohio. And we've got this thing called Pecha Kucha, and you haven't heard of this before. It's a summit. Well, yes, somebody's heard of it before. It is a tradition, and if you haven't done it before since you clapped, we're going to sign you up for next year. You get 20 slides, 20 seconds, and you have to tell a compelling, impactful, sometimes fun story. So you're really going to enjoy it if you haven't seen it before. And also, by the way, if you want to get engaged in the online conversation, our hashtag is #MORPCSummit22. And before I go any further, I want to give some thanks. Of course, thanks to our sponsors. This event doesn't happen without their support. Thank you to our team, and I know there are MORPC employees all over that you've seen speak or engaged. There's also a whole team putting on the event. Niel, Amanda, and everybody else. Thank you, Kirsten and her team, and Brandy. Thank you for making this event. Let's give all of them a round of applause. And I also want you to know we've got a group of leaders in Central Ohio who advise us and inspire us and challenge us on sustainability. You met two of them this morning with our brilliant mayors, Kessler and Jadwin, who are leading our Sustainable Advisory Committee. We have a whole group of these leaders, and a lot of them are here. Some of them are speaking. Let's give them a round of applause for their leadership. We also want to take the opportunity to honor one of our award recipients who couldn't be with us this morning. And it is with great pleasure that I have the honor of presenting our Leadership in Mobility Award. This award is given annually to William A. Bill Lewis, Jr., who's a former chief mobility engineer at the city of Columbus. A lot of us were very close to him and inspired by him, and so this award has a lot of impact because it recognizes an individual like him who exemplifies outstanding work toward creating a world-class multimodal transportation system for our region. And as you might know, we're really thrilled to announce that this year's Leadership in Mobility Award goes to Birdie Fields from Black Girls Do Bike. So come on up, Birdie. I look forward to this summit every year because I know that I'm going to leave here inspired by the work and fresh approaches to sustainability. I'm energized by all of the great stuff going on that's happening with each of you in this room. And you know, at MORPC, we've got a front row seat to this work all across the region. 80 communities, cities, townships, counties, villages, and so many more. You're urban, you're rural, you're suburban, you're big, you're small. And it's that diversity of all of these communities who bring that unique perspective and that energy. That's why our region is strong when it comes to sustainability and why I'm so optimistic about the future. You know, at MORPC, we have a strategic framework, and that top goal is about creating an environment for prosperity. We want to position Central Ohio for prosperity, but we also want to position our communities as national leaders in sustainability through partnerships and innovation and processes and programs that meet communities where they are and really help them achieve the goals that they want. You'll see this too reflected in our programs, whether it's air, water, energy, or land use, or revitalization, transportation, and so much more. You know, all of our work that's happening in this region is doing so in the context of growth. And I don't have to tell you that we're growing, because many of you already feel it and you see it. Maybe you're excited about it, maybe you're worried about it. But we expect the Central Ohio region to grow to 3 million people by 2050. That's another 600,000 people. And when you read about investments like happening with Intel, earlier this week with Honda, and others that are driving growth, we may need to plan and invest in getting ready for that growth a little bit sooner. And at the same time, we've got a once-in-a-generation investment opportunity with the bipartisan infrastructure law. It's a $1.2 trillion investment in our future, and we know that this could help us accommodate the things and the investments that we need to get in front of that growth. Simply put, this moment in time for Central Ohio is our chance to grow better as we get bigger. But we're gonna need your help, and in order to drive the investment that we need in our communities right when we need it the most, we're gonna have to do it right. And what I mean by that is this investment has to be done thoughtfully and through the lens of sustainability. It's got to improve the quality of life and environment at the same time, and we need to bring that lens of equity and inclusion to the work that we're doing too, so that we really, really get better as we grow bigger. I think we're all reminded every day of the climate emergency that's happening around us. We see it here locally in changes in weather patterns and precipitation. We see it globally. It's not hitting every community the same though, as we saw with the recent hurricanes. And this all underscores the significance of sustainability and how it touches nearly every aspect of our communities and our lives, especially as it relates to health of the most vulnerable residents in our region. And it's why sustainability and inclusion go together, and I think you've seen that throughout the conference today. So I'll say it again, our work is about creating that environment for prosperity. And I say that again because I want to share some examples, the story of the work that we're doing together with you and the impact that it's having on programs, or the programs are having on people and the environment. And it doesn't matter what part of the region you live in or work in, those programs are touching your lives and making things better. And so I want to start with the air that we all breathe. So if you're done eating, just take a deep breath. All right. We got to keep that clean, because every summer we hear from older adults who are sensitive to air quality. We hear from parents of children with asthma. This is so important for health to get in front of this. And we have air quality alerts that help alert those individuals and the people they care about air quality alert days. We help give them strategies to take to get in front of air pollution. And you know, we're also working around Central Ohio to help Central Ohio's communities and businesses improve the quality of the air that we breathe. And we want to pause here because I want you to start hearing the story from the employees on our team who do it so well. And we're going to hear first from MORPC's Prince Quarten Crooklyn about some of this work to serve our most vulnerable.
Hi, my name is Prince Quarten Crooklyn, and I serve as the Air Quality and Sustainability Coordinator for the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission. Today, I'll be talking to you about our neighborhood air quality monitoring project. For air quality, it is important to recognize that while we are seeing an overall improvement of regional air quality, there are gaps in data at the neighborhood level. What does this mean? This means not everyone is affected equally. To this end, MORPC and our Franklin County Public Health partners have an exciting and ongoing project at the neighborhood level using low-cost pepper-layer sensors to monitor particulate matter of 2.5 microns, that is PM2.5. The monitors are distributed across 10 zip codes in Franklin County in areas selected from a preliminary socio-demographic analysis. We wanted to lay emphasis on special areas where residents could be more vulnerable to health impacts of pollution. We are currently collecting a year's worth of data to develop a baseline for pollution levels across the county. We hope to close the data gap at the neighborhood level, address inequities in Central Ohio's air quality, and also drive behavior change to protect public health as well as the environment. We are also happy to be a resource to organizations looking to address air quality concerns in terms of best practices and policies, for example.
Prince is here. Let's give him a round of applause for his excellent work. You know, improving the quality of air for our neighbors wherever they live is so important. And that's why, and we also want to improve their quality of life. And that's why housing is also so important when we think about sustainability and prosperity in this growing region. And it becomes even more urgent when we think about how climate change is affecting the region at the same time we're facing a growing shortage of housing at almost every price point. MORPC's regional housing strategy is that roadmap that we've been working on. This proactive, coordinated effort with dozens of partners continues to resonate. We've developed more than 100 actions and solutions with equity and sustainability at its core. And the findings stress just how important it is to invest in existing housing. And I think we all know this, one of the most cost-effective, most significant environmental actions you can take is to improve existing housing and to keep it stabilized. And we have a whole team at MORPC on our residential services team who's helping the most vulnerable in hundreds of homes a year. But let me have them tell you about their work.
Hello, my name is Robert Williams, and I'm the Senior Director of Residential Services. Our Residential Services Department provides free weatherization and home repair services to individuals in Franklin County. MORPC has been providing these critical services to families at moderate and low income levels for close to 30 years. These services are often overlooked when we talk about sustaining affordable housing in Central Ohio. Our home repair program addresses urgent health and safety needs that allow families to stay in affordable units. Our weatherization program reduces the energy cost burden on families in owner-occupied and rental units as well. These programs aid in families being able to sustain their current affordable units, all while improving their quality of life due to the upgrades provided by MORPC.
We have a whole team here from Residential Services crawling through basements, helping the most vulnerable. Let's give them a round of applause. And I know they're out there somewhere. So this work in housing is so impactful to so many, but we know that housing's even better when it has easy access to jobs, to school, and to nature. And that's why at MORPC we work on transit and transportation and connecting neighborhoods, both new ones and old ones, to Central Ohio's best natural feature, which is our beautiful streams and rivers. And I don't have to tell you, we don't have a mountain, we don't have oceans. Alan, we don't even have the Great Lakes. I know he was telling me about Chicago. But what we do have is we have these beautiful waterways, and we have 230 miles. Think about that, 230 miles of Central Ohio Greenway trails and plans to add about 500 more miles to this incredible amenity. This investment isn't just about recreation. It impacts health, quality of life, equity, it conserves the environment, and it can help a community grow, and it can help a community's businesses at the same time. And one of the most fun things we work on, I want to let you hear about, and that's an exciting new initiative that does just that, called Trail Towns.
I'm Melinda Vonstein. I am the Central Ohio Greenways Program Manager at MORPC, and I want to talk a little bit about the Central Ohio Greenways programming. So we're committed to a vision to add over 500 miles of trails to the region, while simultaneously celebrating the region as a hub of beautiful, scenic, nationally recognized trails that have the potential to draw tourists and deepen Central Ohioans' pride of place. This year, we're also recognizing the hundreds of miles of beautiful trails that we already have by partnering with Experience Columbus to develop a Trails Pass to encourage people to check out new outdoor spaces and win prizes. We also partnered with Rails to Trails Conservancy in Green Columbus to host a Celebrate Trails Day on the Scioto Trail near Cosi in the spring. And we are excited about the development of a Central Ohio Greenways Trail Town framework that is providing guidance to leverage trail tourism opportunities, as well as activate transportation and quality of life benefits. Our Trail Town framework is providing our region recommendations to expand wayfinding, invest in public art, develop business collaborations, improve infrastructure, develop a brand identity, and use trails to serve as an economic catalyst. A Trail Town designation program approach has been used across the country to connect town centers and other destinations to trails while encouraging communities to leverage trails to both create a better quality of life for residents and to spur economic activity. Our first phase was working with 4 communities along the Ohio to Erie Trail to imagine a rural program that would promote the use of trails to access amenities, cultural destinations, and existing new businesses. We are now expanding this program to our urban and suburban communities to ensure we have a truly interconnected program that celebrates and highlights the diverse region of Central Ohio.
So this team is so passionate. Let's give them a round of applause for the great work. You know, yesterday I was presenting on Intel and the development impacts and in a group full of real estate managers, and the very first question I got was not on Intel. It was about, can you tell me more about the trails and when we're going to build more of them? So the enthusiasm is real, and we love this. But you know, no matter how we aim to better connect communities in our region, we still have to be forward-looking and keep that lens on sustainability and inclusion. But we also need to raise our expectations of what's possible. And that's why we're so excited about our newest partnership, and that's with Rapid 5. And I think you'll be excited to hear from her in a little bit. Dr. Amy Acton is leading this project. It's a collaboration between MORPC, the Urban Land Institute, Columbus, Metro Parks, and many public and private partners in this room and design firms. It's about better connecting us to nature and to each other. And if this is successful, when it's successful, it connects our region's major waterways and trails into one large green space system. It could bring more access to transportation, recreation, kayaking, mountain biking, activities, family activities, running trails. It's really impressive, and it's really got a lot of momentum. Building on that work, our work in water also extends to really important things about health and environment, like water quality and resilience. And this is across the whole region, whether you're in an agricultural area or a developed one. And I want to share with you about our Sustaining Scioto initiative. So let's learn a little bit more about that.
Hi there, my name is Edwina Tay, Senior Planner responsible for water resources planning and management work. I want to spotlight our Sustaining Scioto initiative. In 2015, MORPC, together with some of its partners, including Delco Water, City of Columbus, and others, completed the Sustaining Scioto study with a goal of identifying risk to the region's water resources due to climate change. This science-based study was completed to ensure that Central Ohioans, residents and businesses alike, have access to safe, clean, secure, and abundant water now and into the future. The study showed us that our region is getting warmer and will likely experience more extreme wet and dry periods. With the help of the Sustaining Scioto Board, made up of experts across a variety of sectors, MORPC is leading the charge to ensure the region has access to clean, secure, and abundant water by adapting to the impacts of climate change. The board will achieve this through efforts that support informed decision-making, prepare and connect our communities, and protect our resources via communication, education, partnerships, and projects. The Sustaining Scioto Board uses a collaborative approach to bring community leaders, utilities, advocacy organizations, and the agricultural community together to accomplish this vision. The board is supported by the Ag and Rural Communities Outreach Team to facilitate collaboration with rural and agricultural stakeholders around common goals that support water quality improvement.
Dr. Tay is doing incredible work across the region. Let's give her a round of applause. So our region's water is an area that's so critical to our future and our resilience and sustainability and equity. What I want to stress about this is that so much of this work is happening in communities, both in local governments and by community groups and partners. Central Ohio's communities, I hope you're feeling this, they're more focused than ever on sustainability. And we're humbled by all of this work and motivated by even things like regular get-togethers of community-specific groups sharing best practices with each other. I know Steve Grossman and others have been leading this effort. We've got another great example with MORPC's Sustainable 2050 program. And this is an impressive 35 local governments. So think about that, 35 local governments, including MORPC, are working together to measure their impact and sustainability and share accomplishments and challenge each other. Just yesterday, we were actually able to recognize New Albany for some of their impressive work. And if you really want to be inspired by the data, you should look at the Regional Sustainability Dashboard, because we are tracking the progress of our Sustainable 2050 goals, celebrating the good work and also highlighting what we know we need to do more of. All right, so at MORPC, we also believe in public and community service. It's hard work, our communities, our environment needs it, and we call this goal to pay it forward. And what we're doing is we're investing in the future through things like internships, lifelong education, partnerships with the community, universities, and more, because we really believe that if we're going to have an impact in sustainability, we have to listen to and invest in our young people. And this next initiative is doing just that. It's an impressive youth engagement that's helping conserve energy and reducing greenhouse gases at the same time. So one more video, let's take a look.
Hi, my name is Brian Filiatro, and I'm the Energy and Program Coordinator here at MORPC. The Regional Schools Energy Strategy, or RECESS, is an exciting, budding collaborative that pairs schools with local governments, two integral entities at the heart of every community, and we're working with both to move ahead with clean energy solutions. RECESS brings together schools and local governments that are interested in going solar to form a solar co-op. A co-op is the idea of utilizing large school rooftops and pairing them with local government buildings in order to secure lower installation and electricity pricing. Through this collaboration, we can also help advance energy conservation practices to save money, along with electric vehicles and charging stations to help decrease pollution in the community. Leading by example, our schools and local governments can support opportunities for learning. Local governments can make solar visible to residents in the community, and schools can integrate these technologies into the school curriculum, turning buildings into living laboratories. RECESS is a great way to increase air quality by reducing greenhouse gas emissions and show how students, teachers, and our local leaders can think globally by acting locally. It's a great narrative for our community to move forward together.
All right, Brian's doing great work. This is really inspiring. Let's give him a round of applause. I love how that program involves students so directly, and it shows how we really are working at paying it forward. We also have some other programs that help future leaders in sustainability. We do this with intern programs with partners like the Ohio University Voinovich School, Ohio State's Sustainability Institute, and for all my planners out there, we've got that Planning Fellows program supported by the Easton Community Foundation and Planning Studios. The Ohio State University Stoughton School is always a strong partner in this. All right, there's so much going on in sustainability, but what I want you to remember is we're here as a resource for you, your communities, your groups. I hope you see that we're building value for all of you in this region with our work in the future. And on behalf of our team, one that I am so deeply proud of, I am honored to work for you and with you and to learn from your great examples and to dream big about Central Ohio's future. So thank you again for being here today. And now I have the distinct honor of introducing Dr. Nicole Ukuma, Director of Talent Development at CareSource, and she has more than 25 years of experience in learning and development focused on supporting leaders and executives at CareSource, which is one of the nation's largest multi-state managed care organizations. She's leading executive, individual, and team coaching. She's building infrastructure that attracts, retains, and grows talent, and is implementing organizational-wide learning and development programs. Join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Dr. Nicole Ukuma. Thanks.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you so much. Oh, that was terrible. Good afternoon. Yes, thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. My name is Nicole Ukama. I am excited to be here to talk to you about inclusive leadership. When I leave today's session, what I'm going to do is challenge you to be bold. I was invited to talk to you a little bit about inclusive leadership here because for many years we have focused on creating diversity, inclusion, equity, belonging programs within our organization. In the most recent years, we've even gone as far as denouncing racism, taking pledge and making commitments to equity and inclusion, and really working to include that in our organization. We've been very purposeful to talk about D, E, I, and B in our conversations, to include them in our practices and the way we hire, the way we recruit. And even when we look at data, we've been really thoughtful about D, E, and I, and B. But I'm wondering, what are we doing in our communities, and how is that reflected within our organizations? And so when it comes to D, E, I, and B, and I put some definitions there in case you're wondering the difference, I'm going to spend a little bit of time today talking to you about inclusion, because we all have good intentions around diversity programming, but our intentions don't always match our outcomes. And why is that? There's research that was cited in the Harvard Business Review that says 3/4 of our underrepresented employees do not feel like our programs have made a difference for them in our organization. So what really makes people feel included in our organizations? What makes them feel like they belong, that they're valued? It could be our mission, our policies, our practices. It could be the opportunities that we put in front of our employees. Maybe it's the coworkers, right? My coworkers' behaviors, do those make me feel more included? And I would say yes, all of those things are true, but what's most important is us as leaders. This is what's going to change how our companies exist. And so over the last 20 years, we've become really good at becoming leaders or being leaders in a homogenistic environment. But as the world is changing, especially in the last 3 years, everything's been accelerated. We have to show up differently to be successful. That means that we need to show up with a new capability. We need to be different in how we are executing leadership today. And I think that adjustment is inclusive leadership. We need to adjust. And I'm not really suggesting a wholesale approach to leadership, that we get rid of things like transformative leadership and authentic leadership and servant leadership. Those are all still important. But within each one of those leadership theories, there's a piece that we haven't spent as much time on, and that's inclusion. What does it look like for us to build relationships, to really understand the people in our organization? What kind of leader will we need to be successful in 5 years, in 8 years, in 15? And the reason why I'm asking you that is to think about it. In just 5 years, it's going to be 2028, right? 10 years. What about in 2038? That feels like a long way away, but it's not. It's just 15 years away. And with all this attention to doing the right thing within our organizations, we also have to do the right things ourselves. We have to be able to reinvent our approach. And leaders who embrace inclusive leadership styles are the ones that are going to lead the way. So, inclusive leadership is different. Research at Deloitte showed that companies with an inclusive culture are more likely to have 2 times better financial situations. They are 3 times more likely to be considered high-performing and 6 times more likely to be innovative. What? We're already innovative. I'm already high-performing. Our finances made it through the pandemic. We're good to go. But we're always seeking a way to be better. We're always seeking a way to be better. So what does this mean? Inclusive leaders are aware of their own biases. If you have a brain, you have bias. So we're all aware of our own biases, and we actively seek out opportunities to understand the different perspectives that other people that are different than us bring to the table. This is not easy. And so as an inclusive leadership, ultimately it comes down to us making connections, for us considering the differences of those in the room. It really is an opportunity for us to really accept and value people's differences while accepting them as part of our group. Research also offers that only 1 in 3 leaders holds an accurate view of their inclusive leadership skills. 1 in 3 leaders believe they are more inclusive than those around them would say. And then there's another third that says, I'm not sure. I lack a little confidence because inclusive leadership is requiring me to be bold. I need to step out. I'm not sure I can do that. So I want you to look to your left and then look at the person on your right. Which one are you? Which one are you? I don't know. I don't know. So it's really important to be thoughtful about what that looks like for me. We have hired, and we recruit, and we invite to a committee 1 Black person, 1 young person, 1 older person, 1 LGBTQ person on our team or within our department, and we've done it. We've got diversity. That's been our minimum standard. That's been our minimum standard for diversity. And you're like, Nicole, this doesn't feel good. This does not feel good. And I'm saying, you're right. But if we don't know if our programs are making a difference, if we don't have true measures of making a difference, if people are telling us, I don't know if your program's making a difference, then maybe we should move away from measurement. And I'm going to encourage you to not pay attention to the measures, how many people are different in the room, but instead pay attention to your behavior when there are different people in the room. I'm going to say that to you one more time. I think we should shift from measuring the differences to paying attention to our behavior in the presence of those differences. So, inclusive leadership requires us to be empathetic. Easy, right? We understand empathy even from a broad perspective. It's the foundation of us making connections with people at an emotional level. It's an act. It should show. When people are empathetic, we're like, they are empathetic. We can see it. And when we are empathetic, it allows us to make meaningful connections, whatever that means to you or to the other people in the room. And so as an organization, if we can commit to merging empathy and inclusion, we have an opportunity to change our organization's environment, to create a meaningful environment for which all of our employees work and live. I'm going to tell you that we generally understand what empathy, a broad view, everybody's got it. I don't need to explain it. But what's this inclusive leadership? You know, you were invited, Nicole, to talk about inclusive leadership. I got it. I understand what empathy is. But what is inclusive leadership? What does it look like? And before I dig into the behaviors, I'm going to talk to you about 6 behaviors of inclusive leadership, give you some opportunities to think about where you sit and what that looks like. I want to call out that you do not have to have the title of leader to move the needle. You don't have to have the title. You can be an informal leader, a team leader, a committee chair, a board member, activist, an intern. You don't just need to be the CEO, the president, the chief, a chair, an elected official, a director, or a manager to make a difference. And that is all of us. That's really all of you. All of you have the opportunity to be different. All right, I'm going to spend the rest of my time talking about inclusive leadership and how you can start to change your behaviors to be an inclusive leader. And these are the 6 behaviors that I'm going to share how and what you can do so that you can start to practice differently and change what your organization looks like. The first one, self-awareness, social awareness, listening to understand, creating connections, courageous vulnerability, and active investing. All right, the first one, deepen your self-awareness. Before you can do anything, we must all master self-awareness. We must understand our own biases. We must understand our strengths, our weaknesses, and we must be comfortable in our own skin. This is an ongoing focus. We're just not self-aware one day. And if any of you tell me, oh gosh, I got number 1 down, I'm self-aware, Nicole, I'm good. What's number 2? I'm going to argue that you are wrong. That you are wrong. This is something that we work on every day. Is there a certain group of people that you automatically think a certain way? Older people, oh, older people. Younger people, oh, younger people. Right? We automatically think, what about a person with accent? A person in a wheelchair? Our brains automatically think a certain way. We have natural biases. And so I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to pause a minute before I keep going to the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th behavior, and I want to talk to you a little bit about bias. If you have a brain, again, you have bias. We all have bias. Unconscious bias does not equal any ism, right? This is just our brain's way of having mental associations that we have no purposeful thought about. If I say peanut butter, everybody just thought jelly. Your brain just goes there. It just goes there. There is no reason for why that happens, except we have spent years taking the bits of information from our brain, and every interaction, our brain brings those forward and then says, this is familiar, this is unfamiliar, this is safe, this is not safe. I like it, I don't like it. And we make those determinations within seconds without any purposeful thought. And so with that, it's really important for you to think about that. Have you ever met someone that reminds you of your grandmother? Or like a friend, a really good friend, and you just get that automatic affinity to that person, right? What about that mean 7th grade teacher? And you're like, ugh, they remind me of that teacher. Or that know-it-all neighbor. Ugh, she reminds me of this neighbor I used to have, let me just tell you. But we automatically start thinking in this way about that. And to our brain, similarity means safety, differences equal threat. And so our brain is trying to figure that all the time. And inclusive leaders are aware that our biases can narrow our vision, and they can make our decision-making not match our intent. Not match our intent. We have years of conditioning from media, news images, and I'm not talking about the last few years. Let's not actually even talk about the last few years, but just our whole life of news, media, the conversations we have with friends and family, the people we grew up with, the people we've been exposed to or not exposed to. Our education, the type of education, the location of the education, the quality of the education. It all drives the way our brains work. But it's our brain's way of naturally making associations based on that, so that what we see is not what our brain is always telling us. And what my brain tells me when I see something is different than what your brain tells you when you see the exact same thing. At the end of my presentation, I'm going to have a QR code for you, so hopefully you have a smartphone. I'm going to have a QR code for you that's going to allow you to take the Harvard Implicit Bias Association test. I don't know if anybody has ever taken that test before. And it's a great exercise in self-awareness. And there's lots of different tests within there that you can take and practice. And with that test, it's really important for you to think about it. If you score low and your unconscious bias is high, it doesn't mean that you've overtly committed any ism or hurt any person. It means that your unconscious brain is already making those decisions. And consciously, it's going to be like, no, that test didn't work, and that's not true. This is our unconscious brain, right? That's telling us this is the way it works. So let me tell you a story about me. Several years ago, I was interviewing for a position, and I just could not find the right one. I couldn't find the right person, the right experience, someone that I liked, the right fit, and I was tired of interviewing. We've all been there. If you have any responsibility for hiring, you're like, oh, interviewing. It's tiring. It's difficult because you're looking for that right person. Well, my talent acquisition director came to me. She's a friend of mine, and she's like, Nicole, I have the perfect person for you. The perfect person. She's been interning with us for 6 months. She graduates in a couple weeks. I was like, oh no. I cannot train someone. I need someone with experience in this role. Right? And that was my first thought. And she said, Nicole, you have to meet her. You have to. And since she was my friend, I said yes. And you know what? I hired her. I loved her from the first moment I met her. And then what made it even better is I observed that she could handle the room with executives, with physicians, with community leaders and her coworkers, and she wasn't afraid to stand up and give her opinion. And she was 20. Right. See, your brain's already showing your bias. But what I also noticed is people were approaching her in that same way I had. Our biases were showing. Our biases were showing. I was not, and they were not, creating an environment that was open to diversity and that was inclusive for her. Long story short, she's 31 now, but she was the best hire I ever had. And not because she did a good job, but she brought some self-awareness to my own biases. She enabled me to think about where I was coming and how I was approaching people and the opportunities that I was and was not giving people in looking for that right person, the right experience with the right fit. All right, so social awareness alone is not enough. Sorry, self-awareness alone is not enough. We have to foster social awareness. Well, what does this mean? This is us looking at the people that we interact with. This is us trying to understand who we interact with. So first comes personal awareness, and this comes social awareness. This is how we show up. This is a leader's currency. People are judging you by your social awareness. This is the currency that we have. Right? People who don't have social awareness, they say the wrong thing at the wrong time. Right? We know those people. We have all been those people. Right? And so it's really important to have that social awareness. People who are socially aware are consistent. They're authentic. These are folks we say, oh man, they are fair. Even when we don't like what they're doing, we have that feeling authenticity because they have social awareness. The third one here, listening to understand. This is different than active listening. This is paying attention to the person who's speaking their values, their beliefs, their feelings, their thoughts, their perspective, and opening yourself up to that as you're making some decisions. So we're listening. And those who have the ability to really understand people's stories and to share their own stories in that communication have more inclusive relationships. They are really able to build those relationships without much thought. We can still be successful and take some time to get to know people. We don't have to go directly to the agenda, right? And if you're a person like me, let's get it done. You have to take the time to build relationships, because if we can pause, understand where someone else is coming from, someone else's story, we actually make better decisions because we've been more thoughtful, we've challenged our own thinking. The next one, create connections. That's our fourth act of inclusive leadership. This is making purposeful connections with other people. It sounds a little bit like the last two, but no, this is actively going out. So let me tell you another story. I'll give you an example. I went to the Kroger in Dublin on High Street just a few weeks ago. And when I went into that Kroger, I remember thinking, gosh, this was the Kroger that me and my friends used to walk to after school and track practice to get a snack. I was like, oh, I haven't been here in a while. I just needed to get a couple of things. And when I got to the register, I heard this man talking about the 1919 building. And I was like, oh. And my brain took a step towards this man. And then I said, are you talking about the 1919 building? And for those of you who aren't aware or who weren't around Dublin 40 years ago, the 1919 building was the high school and the middle school. I think there's like 4 or 5 high schools in Dublin now. And so he said yes. And I smiled and I took another step closer to him. My introvert self went away and I asked, what year did you graduate? And he said 1986, and I was like, 1986! That is fantastic. And my brain took another step closer to him again. And the cashier, the young cashier, she said, what high school did you guys go to? And we both looked at each other and we kind of laughed because that was the only high school 40 years ago. And we laughed, and he said that was the only high school back then. For those of you who don't know, Dublin used to be a farm town. Dublin used to be a farm town. And so we stood there for a little bit, and I talked, and he said, what year did you graduate? And I'm not going to give you a chance to do any math in this room, but I told him, and he said, that was the year my sister graduated. And I took another step closer to him. And then he said, you were the last class to graduate from the 1919 building before they built Dublin High School. Dublin High School is now Kaufman High School, for those of you who are aware of Dublin, right? It wasn't Dublin Kaufman when we were there. It was just the high school. And when he said that, my brain took another step closer to him, right? And then we talked for a little bit longer. He was done at the register, and he went to walk away, and he turned around, and for a moment, I thought we were going to hug, and then my brain was like, oh, hold up. We're not that close. And I think his brain did the same thing. Instead, he waved and smiled, and I smiled, and then I walked away, and I was smiling for the rest of the day. And why am I telling you this story? You're like, Nicole, I don't care. You went to Kroger, so what? But what if that same interactions were happening in our workplace? If we were looking for spaces to engage people we wouldn't normally talk to. My brain was building a connection with a man that looked very different than me. And for those of you who are around Dublin, there's not as many people like me in Dublin, and there wasn't that many 40 years ago. And so I am building a connection with someone who's very different than me. Imagine if that happened in our workplaces. If that could happen in our workplaces, we would have a whole different level of connection, right? We could talk to people that someone we would never have engaged with otherwise. And then we can train our brain to have more safe spaces. Our brain will see that bits of information from that experience at Kroger and allow me to engage with others. The next one here is courageous vulnerability. This means that we are, I just got the 5-minute mark. A courageous vulnerability is us, let me get my brain back on here, is where we candidly speak up, where we are in different environments and we have the bravery and the courage to speak up. That's courageous vulnerability. If we can speak up and reveal our own limitations in the space with others, then we can continue to grow. And finally, the last one I'll tell you here is actively investing. This is in the resources and practices of our organization. And so let me show you an ad. Have any of you seen this Dove product? It's changed. This was in 2014. Can you see what I have circled there? So what's normal? What's abnormal? Here's Dove again in 2017. Another miss. If you think about ads from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, yeah, it was a miss. And so Dove came out and said, oh my gosh, we're sorry. And the next day, they updated the ad, and we're like, oh, we're good. And look, October 9th, 2 days later, and they were like, oh, we're so sorry. We are so sorry. We are so sorry. Now, the Dove that we know today still has the same ad. Their tagline is, real women. Dove is good for every skin type and every skin tone and every woman, no matter the woman. Every woman, right? So Dove is an extreme example, but if decisions are not made in an inclusive environment where people with differences are open to speaking up, then the intention of the Dove Real Women ad doesn't match the outcome. So we're living in this global environment of diversity. The millennials are taking over our workplaces. They're at 50%. We have this diverse population within our workplaces. People are more mobile. They're more educated. They're working from home. We have access to all of this, so we can do good stuff. But if we don't get the people part right, we're not going to be successful. All right, so this is where it gets complicated. I've got one more story. Kristen's going. All right, if you know Kirsten, she'll keep me in line. But this is where it's most important, because you say, what can I do to get started in building my leadership environment, inclusive leadership in the environment for which I work? Well, I'm going to tell you one more story, and this is that if you think about our environments, right, we think about the world, and we get to a space where the majority group becomes our norms. It becomes part of our culture. This is the way they're somewhat invisible. This is the way we work. This is the way it is. And so, left-handed people in the room, right? You know what I'm talking about. This world is not built for left-handed people. The mouses, our computer mouses, scissors, right? That darn spiral on those notebooks are not built for right people. But look how many right people there are. Why do we need to make a difference? So if you think about this in the case of an interview, I'm hiring some people to cut a straight line. But don't worry, I brought scissors. I brought the same scissors, my scissors. I got good scissors. Everybody wants to use my scissors. They were kind of expensive scissors. They are good scissors. I'm going to bring those to the interview. Now, if I brought my scissors, we're good to go, everybody's using the same scissors, do the left-handed interviewees speak up? Or do they just adapt? And since I'm looking for the straightest line, am I more likely to hire right-handed people? Am I more likely to promote right-handed people because they're like me, not on purpose, but my unconscious brain is looking for that straight line? So inclusive leaders know that fairness does not equal sameness. Fairness does not equal sameness. All right, so I want you to consider, one, at the end of this presentation, I'm going to have a second QR code for you, because I want you to establish a baseline for your own inclusive self. So take the test. I'm not asking you to argue with it. I don't even want to argue with you. Just take the test. Figure out what your baseline is. Then I want you to approach a few people in your circle and have a conversation and ask them to be your personal advocates and help you get better. I want you to then be very, very bold. Be very, very bold. If this Dr. Hooden, if Francis Hooden worked at Dove, do you think they would have had that problem? They would not have had that same problem. So what's next? Think about these 6 behaviors. I've talked about the I, inclusive, self-awareness, social awareness, listening to understand, creating connections, courageous vulnerability, active listening. But what I really want you to do is just be bold. Just be bold. So you can work on all those 6 things. You can create your personal environment. You can put yourself in uncomfortable situations. But at the end of the day, you have to examine yourself. Examine your organization. Do people look like you on your team? Do you know your people's stories? Are your biases showing up in interviewing and hiring? Does your organization have scissors for everyone? Or do we all have to carry the same pair? Am I measuring you on the use of my scissors? Or am I measuring you on the straight line? So I want you to think about that when you come into your organization. Examine who is within your organization and think about those biases. And then establish inclusive leadership as a core competency. I want to thank you for my time. I know I went over, but I want to thank you so much for having me here today. Oh, where's my QR codes? Oh man, we'll have to get those to you. I thought they were my last slide, but my slide is gone. We'll get those up for you. No worries. Thank you. So awesome. We're going to be fiending for those QR codes.
Yes, we will find the QR codes and get them to you, Nicole. Thank you so much. I absolutely hate shooing you off the stage because you were amazing and you're such a good friend to me. And who knew that a story about scissors could be so emotional? But it was a great analogy that really stuck with me and got to me. Can we give another round of applause to Nicole? Okay, and so with that, we're going to continue the theme of kindness and vulnerability and compassion with our Pecha Kucha speakers. If you're not familiar with that format, essentially those Pecha Kucha speakers have 20 seconds per slide, and they have only a total number of 20 slides to tell their story. And I'm really excited to introduce our first Pecha Kucha speaker, Kristen Atha, water lover, lifelong learner, and travel enthusiast.
We don't get to hide behind anything. They're really mean. I love water. I love looking at it, kayaking on it, smelling it, being around it. I have spent my whole career focused on water, so you might think that I was going to talk about water today. But I'm going to talk about how water connects us. First, I'm going to talk about another experience that I had in my life that helped me understand our connections to each other in a more personal way. In 1998, I gave birth to triplets. Right after they were born, they were 5 weeks early, and right after they were born, they were separated from each other, put into incubators, and rushed off to the neonatal intensive care unit. My daughters were doing fine, but our son was really struggling to breathe. He would have episodes of apnea where he would just stop breathing, almost as if he was forgetting that he needed to do that. And so after 5 days of just recurring and repeating episodes of apnea, our team decided to put him in between his sisters. And once he was in the middle, back where he was for the last 8 months, he remembered that he needed to do that. He started breathing all the time, all by himself. It was as if he needed their presence next to him to feel connected to his sisters, to remember that he needed to breathe. And it was almost like the girls were kicking him and reminding him, come on, Simeon, let's do this thing so we can go home. So after they put him in between the girls, he never stopped breathing again. And they still, to this day, have a really special bond. And the sisters still are very protective of him. So we're also connected as a community in all kinds of different ways. One of the ways that we're connected is through water. It's a precious and finite resource that we all rely on for life. 71% of the earth is covered with water, but only 1% of that water is available for us to use as fresh drinking water. As a water utility leader, I think all the time about how we're connected to every household in our service area through the water that we deliver every day, 24 hours a day. I want to tell a little story about a woman named Beth who works for the Division of Public Utilities here in Columbus. Beth is a Class 4 water treatment plant operator. A Class 4 is kind of like having a PhD in water treatment. Beth is amazing. She's been working in the water industry for 40 years, and we're so lucky to have her at the Dublin Road Water Treatment Plant. She leads a group of operators and technical folks to deliver over 80 million gallons of water a day to the central part of Columbus. She feels connected to our community because of that connection that she has, creating clean drinking water for all of us. Recently, I asked Beth what was notable about her 40-year career as a water plant operator. And she said she's so proud of working, in particular at the Dublin Road plant, because of all of the innovation and technology that we've invested in to deliver that water to the city. This is the sewer maintenance and operations staff at the City of Columbus. These folks have a really hard job. They're connected to all of us in a different way. They maintain and take care of our sewer collection system. When there's a backup or a line break or a flood event like we had on May 20th in 2020 during the height of the pandemic. It was an uneasy time in the city, and there was a rainfall event that caused widespread flooding throughout Columbus. With floodwaters threatening the southern part of the city, our SMOC team, and you can see that they're all masked up in this picture, rushed to put up the Franklinton flood wall to protect the southern part of the city. We had been keeping our crews separated from each other, and they didn't even think about it. They all joined together to protect the 2,700 acres of land, homes, people, businesses that would have been devastated by that flood. And then over the next 24 hours, they responded to 3,000 calls across the city as well. Finally, I want to talk about Fong Chang. Fong is an engineer at the Division of Sewers and Drains who came to the United States in 1999 to get her PhD in civil engineering at Ohio State. She leads our system-wide sewer capacity model, and Fong was also the 2022 Engineer of the Year for the City of Columbus. The work that her team does for the Division of Sewers and Drains helps us to plan for all of the growth that is happening in Central Ohio. They also help us maintain our operations throughout the collection system, protecting homes just like the SMOC team does, but in kind of a different way. The planning that her team does helps us understand where we need to grow our collection system to support growth in Central Ohio, including the work that's coming with Intel and everything associated with the Intel expansion. When Fong first came to the United States, she felt very disconnected from the community, even in China, because of going back and forth. So she created connections here in the community as a big sister, through Big Brothers Big Sisters, and also as a volunteer instructor within the Capstone program at Ohio State. So I ask you today to think about who in your life might need a nudge to help them to remember to breathe. And I ask you also to remember what your connection is to water as we take care of that precious resource. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Craig Turner, positive, creative, persistent.
All right, I'm on. Am I on? Yes. How's everybody doing today? It's a real honor to be with you today, and I have the pleasure and the unique ability to keep this ball rolling of love. So I'm going to come with a purpose It's to ask you to change your perspective and maybe open your heart a little bit and think about how adding love to the work you do, to the businesses that you're a part of, think about how adding love can make your world a better place and make the world a better place. So if there's one thing that you take away from our time here together, I'm going to ask you again to open up with love and not close down with fear. So my story is going to start, as many of my stories do, with Jim Grody. Jim Grody, some of you may have heard of Donato's Pizza. Jim started Donato's Pizza in 1963 on the south side of Columbus. Jim has been a great inspiration to me in my life and the work that I do in innovation. Jim started some businesses in addition to Donato's. He started the Grody Company and the Edge Innovation Hub, where I'm the executive director. Jim created this campus in Gahanna. Hi, Mayor Jadwin. And he created this Edge Innovation Hub on the edge of the campus, a space a little bit away from the rest of the businesses so that the innovation wouldn't get squashed by the healthy immune system of those businesses. And the work that we are doing at the Edge and the work that is going on with those other businesses is driven by values. It's always at the top of what's important in what we do. We even created this coin to take our values and make it a tangible thing that we could pass to the people that we work with and to the people that we meet, to hopefully inspire leading with love and the golden rule and doing the right thing. So I have a background in design thinking. I see some Ohio State tables over there. I'm with you. My work in design thinking taught me one very simple core idea, and that is to empathize with the user. This means we design with and for the people that we are designing for. Ladies, if you've ever felt like a man designed your shoes, those guys need to take a walk, right? So empathizing with the user means love. And these are the folks that I have a lot of love for, the restaurant industry workers. We've all heard about the labor crisis and the challenges going on all across labor markets. It's hit hard in the restaurant industry, we know. And so my business is interested in how we can help make that job a better job, how we can make the team a better team and make the business a better business. And the way that we are approaching doing that is through automation. Jim Grody made the Pep-O-Matic back in 1970, and his work in this area has never stopped. So we are actively creating automation tools for the restaurant space so that those folks who are doing those really tough jobs, sometimes they're dull, dirty, and really difficult jobs, how can we help put them in positions to help grow the business, not just do the same tasks over and over again? We want to help raise folks up that pyramid to self-actualization. That's why Agape Automation was created. We're the food tech innovation company that's creating the smart pizza kitchens of the future. And our rally cry is to automate with love. So, You know, there is a lot of talk about automation taking away jobs. I can assure you it is the last thing that we are interested in doing. We are reallocating jobs to help grow the business, to make connections in the community, to be more involved with the customer. We created our first product, the Smart Saucer. Jim Grody comes in to work on this every day, along with the other products that we're working on. We created this so somebody doesn't have to sauce a pizza hundreds of times a day. They can go to make their team a better team and make that business a better business and grow. And someday we'll be making pizza on the moon. Technology, automation, it's here, it's growing, we know this. We have to program this technology with love. I'm going to break my own rule and read a slide, but here we go. Too many people out there are leading lives of quiet desperation, working jobs they hate, to buy things they don't need to impress people they don't like. How far we've fallen if this is how we feel. The answer is love. So come on, Columbus. Let's make love a part of our sustainability plan. Let's make love our mode to make things a little better. Let's challenge ourselves. And I'll end by saying, I love all of you, and have a great rest of your summit. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Dr. Amy Acton, compassionate, bold trailblazer.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? All right. Well, it is wonderful to be with you here today. This is not my normal format, as you know, but I never take a moment like this for granted. All of us being here together this way, I hope we don't. And I've already changed what I'm going to say based on the amazing experiences I've had today listening to folks, so we'll see where this goes. So this is how you first, most of you got to know me, not all, but many of you. And quite honestly, I'm a very ordinary person who found herself in an extraordinary moment in the crosshairs of history. It was the honor of a lifetime to serve in this way. I can't say enough. But I have to tell you, it wasn't I who flattened the curve. It was Ohioans who moved mountains and flattened the curve. There's no order I could have written. It was really much more about the way we all rode together and inspiring that. And we talked in our state a lot about brutal honesty, vulnerability, and courage, and empowering others. And in this together, the Not All Heroes Wear Capes, these memes came together. Act on love, not hate was a sign. And we started to say, act on love, not hate, kindness, not fear, because we knew there was a contagion worse than a virus, and that is fear. Everything we learned is about One Health. One Health is about animal, human, and the environment being one large ecosystem. And that's exactly what a zoonotic disease is. And I've spent my whole life trying to thread that needle. And in public health, you know, I came about loving this career and yearning for blue zones where people live longer, healthier lives because of how I grew up as a child in Youngstown, Ohio. Many of you know I had a rough childhood, but things saved me. Books. One of my favorite books was Charlotte's Web, so that was foreshadowing. Being out in nature and being able to run free, and quite honestly, the kindness of strangers and a few random people who let me know I mattered. Now, one of the places I loved to run around was Mill Creek Park. This was a park in Youngstown, if you're familiar, that was designed by Frederick Law Olmsted. Frederick Law Olmsted was not a landscape architect. He was actually a gentleman farmer and a journalist who covered the South during slavery. Lincoln tapped him to run the Sanitation Bureau during the Civil War. And that eventually became the American Red Cross, which was public health, which led him to enter a contest in a time of disruption to try to heal a city right before it was going to explode in growth. And he created what he calls lungs for the city. That's how that came about. And I want you to know this is our moment in this region to create lungs for our city. Can you imagine New York City if they hadn't claimed that and the growth filled in? And as William said, we're about to grow by so much. This is our chance in Central Ohio, and quite honestly in Ohio writ large, to claim nature and put nature at the heart of our lives. So not too long after the pandemic, I discovered a book, thank you, Kirsten Carr, that was a designs made by many people in this room included, that looked anew at our 5 waterways. It was Rivers and Parks Imagination Design. And we discovered that we have 145 miles of water right in the heart of our city that many of us take for granted. We saw them as drainage ditches. Look at this picture. That is the water coursing through our area. It almost looks like a heart, doesn't it? And we want to put nature at the heart of our lives. It's something we all discovered during the pandemic. It was the one place we could all go to be safe. And it is common ground. It's one of the last things it's the least partisan bastions left. And this vision took into account all the social determinants of health. It started to imagine the largest integrated park system in the country. But at the top of that pyramid was how we live. It leads with joy and recreation, which we all need to be healthy. We all discovered. Sometimes I tease that I'm just kayaking. But underneath it all, I'm still doing public health. What we've learned from the science is profound. Nature creates states of awe and wonder. It heals you. It actually changes your biochemistry. Smelling sap from a tree changes neurotransmitters in your brain. Nature is not a luxury. It's actually essential to our well-being. We also have to steward these waterways. We have a chance to save these for generations to come. Do you know when they did the downtown river, it took 1 EPA agent with 6 volunteers to hand carry mussels to protect the environment? And we get to do this for 145 miles so that we make sure it is there for generations to come. Also in this plan was new minority business creation all along the corridors. This has been hugely successful in cities like Atlanta, the Beltline, the Bayous, the High Line, but it was also outdoor classrooms so kids can engage in awe and wonder because we know there is nature deficit disorder. Underneath it all, it had new ways of transportation. My favorite drawing from the plans, which I'll invite you to look at, is Hanford Village, a city that was cut off by redlining, by the highways coming through. And this plan literally had ways to bridge back to Alum Creek, redo the silos, and create new climbing walls. Overarching all of these things, housing, nature, education, were arts, history, and culture. All throughout these park systems. We learned, for instance, that Alum Creek was the liquid path to freedom for slaves because people used the sycamores to navigate at night. There is so much beauty here. There's stickers on your tables with QR codes to look at, but I invite you to join me in this journey, in this moment. We can go 2 ways. We will grow, but will we grow well? This is the chance to build the cities of our dreams, the cities worthy of human affection, where we just vibrate differently. Yes, we'll get the largest integrated park system in the world, but what I really want is for us to connect to nature and one another like never before. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, what incredible Petra Kucha talks following Nicole's inspiring presentation. I hope you're really feeling the love in the room and you're inspired to be a little kinder to yourselves and to others and to also be encouraged to be bolder to create transformational change. I'm a huge Brené Brown fan, and there's a quote that says, "It's okay to be brave and be afraid at the same time." And so I really hope that today you can pledge to be brave, but also to make time to support each other when things go wrong. And so can we please give another round of applause to our amazing speakers today? Okay, so with that, I will get you to your next round of breakout sessions to wrap up the Summit on Sustainability. So we hope you stay around to continue to learn and engage and network. The next set of breakout sessions begins at 2:15, followed by another round of breakout sessions at 3:30. And so with that, I'll let you go. I really hope you're enjoying the summit and you join us next year. Oh, and yes, here are Nicole's QR codes that she was mentioning. If you can just hold your phone against it, it'll give you the information to those tests and you can see what your biases are. Thank you.